We are started. Welcome everyone to the fourth session of How Happiness Stings. I'm very, very excited about this course. It's actually, this lesson is probably my favorite lesson so far, even though I say that about every lesson. But this one's actually my favorite because it's about worrying. It's about overcoming worry. As in the title, Journey from Oi to Yay. Or what I like to say is you gotta put the J in the Oi to bring joy. My favorite joke is about worrying. Is there's a classic series of jokes in Jewish lore about this town, mythical town called Chelm, because there's a real town in Lithuania called Chelm where they're very, very serious and very studious and like very, very serious. So there's a joke. The classic joke was there's this other town called Chelm where everyone was like joke and like was like really not smart and like the opposite of Chelm. And they were always worrying all the time. Everyone in the town. So they said, you know what, we should really hire someone to do all the worrying for us. Then we won't have to, then. So they decided, okay, they got together, they raised some funds, raised taxes a little bit. They hired a guy, full-time worrier. It's like, okay, wow, this is really good. Keeps our mind at ease. Then he comes back at the end of the year one. How's everything going? Performance review. He says, look, everything's great, but look, I can't, inflation, I need a raise. He's like, sorry, we can't give you a raise. He's like, why can't you give me a raise? He said, if we give you a raise, you'll have nothing to worry about. So that's the joke. Okay. Yeah, okay, sorry. Hopefully it wasn't too corny, but anyways, I like that joke because it kind of really puts, helps make this topic, more fun. Anyways, just before we get too into the weeds on this lesson, any specific feedback, thoughts, reflections from the previous lesson? That nothing specific that comes to mind? Okay. If
from
anything from the last lesson specifically, did you? Yeah. But we can just go. We'll just jump straight in. Okay.
But I mean,
let's just
I just was going to give some feedback.
Yeah, please. Yeah, please feedback.
The use of the Moda Ani prayer.
Yes.
In the morning.
That was from the first lesson. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No. Please, no. If you can keep it to like 10 seconds or less, then no. Make it. I would love to hear it. Please.
No, it. Usually when I wake up, I'm full of my dreams, and I have some despair about me. And when I say the prayer, I feel less despair.
Oh,
so that's
amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much for that feedback.
Okay.
Yay, that's really great feedback.
Despair disappears.
Yeah. So I think the one biggest feedback I have about the last course, because I actually was working. Last night, there was two guys on the Zoom that wanted to work on the exercises more. So I joined them in person in the Valley last night. And one thing I think is very important that's going to lead into this lesson is like you can figure out as much about your personality and all of your intellect and emotions and figure out, everything, go deep into your life to figure out what your purpose is. But everything... You can do that, but it's still so important to speak it over with a mentor or a friend or a spouse to really to be able to concretize, to make sure hey, is my evaluation actually even remotely spot on? I think that's a big component to talk to others, and especially ideally a mentor, a rabbi, therapist, spouse, friends. Obviously, everyone has different, ways to do that, but that is a very crucial component that we didn't really touch on last week. We're going to touch on this week. So that's I guess a good bridge into this topic. Okay, we all worry. We all love to worry, right? 121. Let's just quickly do this exercise 4.1. If anyone needs a pen, You can, I may have one or I may not, but here's a pencil. But this is a portion of an exercise, of a 7-part exercise. We're only doing 4 parts of the 7.
Sorry about
No,
I
welcome.
was having trouble with Amazon. They there were
That's
3
okay.
packages they
That's okay. That's okay.
and they didn't. So I said,
That's okay. We're good. It's all good. We just did all the jokes and all the warm up stuff. So okay, so we're on page 121. Just taking a couple minutes to fill out exercise 4.1. Oh, Michael. Michael, are you sitting here?
Yeah, I'm gonna go over there.
Okay, you're great. Yeah, 121. If you need a pen, let me know. Fill out 121 for it. We'll just take a couple minutes. Jeffrey, since you already finished, do you want to? We actually don't need to discuss this. It's just the main idea is to. These are just 4 different types of anxiety that a person could experience, of 7, and 3 of them aren't relevant, so that's why we're only doing 4. But you'll see how this plays in as we go through the lesson. Okay, 122. Yeah, 121 is the exercises, and you can do those on your own later at the end of the class, after class, or during class while we're talking. That's up to you. But you missed that. Okay, page 122. Question for discussion: what strategies have you found effective in managing your worries? Does anyone want to share? Page 122. Either jot down or you can share. Don't be shy. Does anybody? It's good to get a baseline of what people's opinion are of the topic.
Well, when I remember to have faith that everything will work out
Yeah.
as it's supposed to, then that eases my worry.
Oh.
I remember a little anecdote about a guy that came home from work, and he was always full of worry.
Eh.
Before he walked in his house, he hung all his worries on the worry tree outside the house.
Ah.
So he'd be with his family, and when he came out in the morning, he found that a lot of the worries had disappeared.
And literally the pieces of paper flew away, and then that's really great. You just came up with that on the spot, or
No.
you heard of that? Oh, I'd love to hear where that came
I
from.
don't remember. I know in so many years.
Okay.
Must have been another sharp rabbi that taught me.
Yeah. No.
and that was outside the house?
As he walked in, so he
Yeah.
could spend time with his family, he hung all his worries on the worry tree.
Okay. So as I said, speaking to others to really address your worries, or address, to connect to the last lesson, maybe your personality and how to affect your purpose. And maybe you're worried about that. Maybe you're worried about financial. Maybe you're worried about health. Maybe you're worried about COVID still. I'm joking. Hopefully we're not worried about COVID anymore. Text 1A, 124. Maybe we'll go. Maybe we'll start with David Teeterbaum since David has to leave a little early. So why don't you read a text 1A on page 124. This is a verse. No, it's a very short.
I'm just kidding.
Oh.
A worry in a person's heart. Oh, this is advice for the worry.
Yeah.
A worry in a person's heart, cast it away.
Yeah. So you can see in the
I gotta
slides.
comment I have to comment on that.
Yeah, please.
Because if I go back to the exercise, what strategy have you found effective in managing worry? My first one was fishing. So casting our troubles away, then I think that's probably...
That
right
you
in
literally
line.
cast it away.
Yeah.
Because that just doing that motion of throwing, and it is actually interesting because for a lot of people to regulate stress, like playing a sport, a lot of sports involve throwing things. So I don't know, that is interesting because maybe that motion of casting things away. It's actually very interesting because in the Jewish tradition, on between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we do this ceremony called Tashlich. Tashlich is where we kind of cast away, metaphorically, cast away our sins. We do a special prayer by a source of water. Here we have, Payson just blesses so many beautiful ponds and, lakes, mini lakes. You stand by the water and you kind of like symbolically cast away your sins. It's like called tashlich. It's yeah. So this is the word yashchana. Yashchana means to cast away. Okay. The Talmud teaches something very interesting about this. Ready? So yashchana. Should we do clockwise to keep things consistent? Michael, why don't you read page 124, text 1b. This is the Talmud. This is a quote from the Talmud commenting on text 1a, which is a verse from Proverbs.
2 ways to cast worry. Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Asi interpreted this verse. One said, cast it from the mind. The other said, speak about it with others.
Yeah. Very good. So if you can see, it kind of works a little bit better with the Hebrew. You can see on the slide here in the Hebrew, yashchana or yaschana means to cast away, and then yesichana comes from the word sicha, which means to speak to others. So you can see in the slide, yashchana cast away, yesichana talk to a friend. So it's kind of interesting because are these two rabbis disagreeing with each other, or are they agreeing with each other? They're just saying, hey, this verse is deeper than an initial first surface value. It actually means both, that we should do both. Sometimes we need to just not think about it and cast it away, and sometimes we need to address it head on, and by specifically speaking to others, it can help address the worry. Okay, question for discussion. Why, page 125, why does it often help to discuss a worrisome matter with a friend? What do you guys think?
Get some feedback.
Get a different perspective.
That's good. Anyone else?
Just to vent.
Yeah, well, yeah, I was going to say, yeah, I think,
Just
like,
to get it off of your
yeah, one thing you're saying is, like, it's not even necessarily about the feedback per se. That's more of, like, that's, like, more that, Medea would give more, like, the masculine answer, it's just, like, the actual practical reason, but also, like, the more, I guess, just for emotionally, sometimes when you verbalize something is, like, in your consciousness, in your psyche, and it's just stuck there, it's just driving you crazy. Sometimes speaking about it just helps relieve. And I'm sure you can, Donnie, you can relate, being a professional in the psychological field for many years. That is kind of the basis, if I'm not mistaken, the whole field of
catharsis, you mean?
just the whole idea of when you have these different things in your psyche that are bothering you, just the very act of speaking it out with someone, that alone can be very therapeutic.
Kind of the basis of all the 12-step programs were right there.
Okay, so text 1C. Jeffrey,
what page?
page 125.
Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Schneerson
Very good.
cited in Hayom Yom 25 Sivan. The third Rebbe of Chabad explained, there are others only in the bodily sense. However, they are completely united with you, for they empathize with you.
Mm-hmm. So this is an interesting approach to this idea of speaking with others, of why it works. This is the one possible Hasidic approach according to this Rebbe from Chabad. Basically, he's saying that when you talk it over with someone else, that they're not actually, they are in the physical sense they are another person, but in the spiritual sense they're kind of united with you and sharing. They're kind of united with you in that experience. So kind of when you're speaking it over with someone and then they're feeling your pain and empathizing with what you're going through, they're kind of almost sharing the burden, so to speak, of what you're going through, and that alone can help uplift you. So that is another basically a really beautiful way to explain why, one of the many reasons why it is that talking with others actually can be helpful. So now next, Oh, here we go. Other in body, united in spirit. Sorry, okay. So, next we're going to do mind control, page 127. Here. You get 126, 127. So, okay. So why don't, Diane, why don't you read text 2a on 127. So before we read that, I'll just give a preface. This is a very, very, very beautiful, powerful letter by the third Chabad Rebbe of Chabad that someone wrote to him about how he's having all these different worries and it's really bothering him and driving him crazy. And what we're going to go through is several parts of this letter. We're kind of going to break it up into very small chunks. And by doing that, we're going to be able to discuss it slowly. It's actually divided into 3 little parts, which is nice because then we get to kind of reflect on different parts of the letter and really beautifully illustrating a very kind of the spiritual reasons according to the Torah how worry works within the spirit, within the soul. And if once you understand how it works, then you can almost be able to learn how to overcome it. So why don't you read, Diane, text 2a, page 127. Yeah.
Regarding your questions concerning fears, etc., although they are overwrought, I have not refrained from answering by sharing what's on my heart.
So it's interesting because the beginning of his letter of this person that was worrying so much, what does he say? He says he first dismisses his worry altogether. It's almost like that first interpretation from our first text, right? That really if you're having worry, cast it away. It's really nothing. Really, your worries aren't actually a real thing. A beautiful analogy I just heard driving up here is it's almost like turbulence on a plane. Everyone that's flown on a plane before, there's always that moment where there's like the turbulence, especially if you haven't flown in a while. What's going through your head is you're thinking, oh my gosh, plane's going down, that's it, but deep down it's just turbulence. It's nothing's going to happen. But you have that worry is still, sometimes there. So to first recognize that your worries, a lot of our worries are just turbulence. It's not something that we should really be getting worried about. But despite the fact that he dismisses it, he still chooses to answer and to still acknowledge the fact that he has these feelings, and he's going to go into more detail to explaining how. How to overcome it. How to overcome it if just simply casting away isn't working. I guess that might be a good way to think about it. Like, how do you just cast away? What do you mean I'm worried? Like, I can't just cast away. Like, right? It's not just it's so simple. Okay, Donna, why don't you read it? Text 2b, page 127.
2b.
Yeah. To be or not to be?
Calm.
No. Yeah, go for it.
It is certain that you should ask God for joy, as it is written, cause the soul of your servant to rejoice. Similarly, we say in our prayers, remove gloom and lamenting from us. Nevertheless, there are also fears that people trigger themselves, and the choice and authority is given to them to withhold themselves from them.
Yeah. So we are not hostages of our emotion. And so essentially he's saying that, ideally, like theoretically, if you just had your daily prayer routine, then praying alone could just, get rid of your worry. But sometimes that doesn't work. So he's saying praying isn't enough. We have to learn about how our minds control our emotions, and then that recognize that we can be in control of our worry and our state of being. And we can be in control of the consciousness that dictates whether or not we're going to worry or not. And so it was actually really funny because last lesson, I don't know if remember, we went through the 10 sefirot, right? And part of me was thinking, oh, why are we going through the 10 sefirot? It's like, okay, I get it, personality, etc., but like, is it that important to know? Like, can I survive without knowing? And maybe, but now we can apply that knowledge to this lesson. So the first three, do you remember what the first three were? No, Chachma, it was the three intellectual, which actually the acronym, the easy way to remember is, it's the acronym for the word Chabad. So Chabad is Chachma, Bina, Dat, which is, right? Yeah. The wisdom, creativity is Chachma. Bina is understanding or discernment, and Dat is knowledge or connection. So basically, Dat, the third of the sfirot, is basically is kind of what brings our intellect down into our emotions. And so the best way to explain this is that all of our 10 sfirot, all of our 10 attributes that we have, are either in a dormant state or in an active state. So, for example, if you're working on like a very analytical thing, right? The idea is already there, but you're just working on something analytical. Maybe your bina, your state of bina, is very active, but your chachma and dat aren't so active because that you don't need to activate the portion of your intellect that focuses on the idea because you already have the idea, and you don't need to internalize it into your emotions because that's not what you're figuring out right now. So it's really that one sphere. So you have different times where it can be dormant or active. So dat, the third of the intellectual attributes, is what takes an idea, an abstract idea, and helps internalize it and makes it into an emotion. And so that is worry. Worry is letting our emotion is basically having a very active dot of the third of those of our intellectual, because basically we're allowing that intellect, that whether justified or not, to penetrate our dot, like the turbulence. We're allowing the fact that the airplane's shaking, like, impact us emotionally and get to be worry, right? What he's going to explain is that how does that third attribute, how does it activated or not activated? It's actually within our power of thought. Thought is actually considered a garment of the soul. It's not considered part of the soul itself. For example, I can think about one thing, and then all of a sudden I can start thinking about something else, and it's not. I can change what I'm thinking about, just like I can change what I'm speaking about or what I'm doing. I can also change my thoughts. So basically, our thought process controls to what level our dot, the part of our soul that draws down the intellectual concepts into our emotions, whether that's going to be dormant or more pronounced. So I hope that wasn't too complicated, but basically, so when we change our thought process, if we just start thinking about something else or stop thinking about that worrisome thing, then instantly we're not going to be worried about that thing anymore. So yeah.
I'm just going to make a statement.
Yeah, please.
In the context of being happy,
Mm-hmm.
a little turbulence, you
Yeah.
might be a little scared.
Yeah.
But it's not going to make you unhappy.
That's true.
You know,
Well,
now a child diagnosed with a terrible disease, that's that kind of work.
no, for sure, yeah.
To me, if your base layer is happy, then there's 100 things a day that are gonna,
Mhm.
like I'm worried about making my appointment. That's
Yeah.
why I'm doing that, but I'm still happy.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think, we've spoken about this before, but I think the thing is there's multiple angles and layers and levels of happiness. It's not like, so that's the whole idea of this course overall, is to really understand happiness from, like, at the very least 6 different angles. And worry is just one of those angles. And I think you're right that, like, you would not feel unhappy by being worried about the plane, but what about a person that is, like, clinically afraid of flying and they cannot get on a plane? And therefore they need intensive therapy in order to be able to overcome that. and that might cause them to be unhappy. So there's almost like a certain threshold between like what's considered like clinical and not clinical. So like for us overall, thank God, all of our worries are probably subclinical, right? Relatively. So we're very fortunate to that. But other people might not. I don't know. Do you want to add something professional thought?
No, I'm not.
Okay, unprofessional thought.
Unprofessional thought. Actually, it's just experience.
Yeah.
There's a saying that worry is faith about something you don't want, rather than what you do want.
Faith of
So
interesting.
you're putting your faith where you don't want it.
Faith in the unintended outcome as opposed to
Yeah.
faith in the
It's
desired
faith in-
outcome.
Faith in the positive, the benefit, the beneficence
Yeah.
of the universe.
Interesting. Okay, thank you for sharing that. Okay, text 2C. I think Donna's turn, page 129, right?
Well, I just
Oh, you just read?
Tom, yeah.
Oh, sorry, that's what I meant. David, okay, you get to make up for that short quote because now you get a nice long one. So this is the rest of the letter, the last part of the letter.
Want me to read the whole thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Each person has three soul garments: thought, speech, and action, that comprise the primary components of human behavior.
Mm-hmm.
The choice and power is granted to us to think, speak, and act accordingly to our desire. Even if you are emotionally afraid, you are able to remove your thought, speech, and action from that emotion. Immediately upon letting go of the thought, the fear will dissolve on its own. At the very least, the fear will become dormant and will not be felt in your body. And over the course of a few days, it will completely dissipate to the point that it will not come up in your mind at all. Removing your thought from the fear will lead to the fear's dissipation, because emotions come from the faculty of dot, by means of thought. Therefore, by removing your thought, dot automatically removed from the emotion and will not awaken.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a
Yeah.
difference between
This-
denial
Yeah.
and choice to be happy. Like if you don't like your emotion and you say, I'm not going to think about it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's going to live down there if
Mm.
you don't acknowledge it too.
That's true. Exactly. Yeah. No, that paradox. Yeah, for sure.
Kind of reminds me of a quote, faith and fear cannot exist in the same space.
Yeah. Very, very good quote. Who's the author of that quote? You know?
No.
That's really beautiful. David,
take
you
credit
actually
for
have
that.
one last paragraph of that quote on that I think.
On the next page?
Yeah, it is appropriate.
Well, look at that. I tried to cheat.
Nah, I told you it's a long one.
Okay, I'm just going to read the last sentence of the one before.
Yeah, please.
Therefore, by removing your thought, dot is automatically removed from the emotion and it will not awaken. It is appropriate for you to train yourself away from all melancholy. You can remove the fear from your heart, even when there is something legitimate to fear. All the more so in your case, in which, thank God, you have nothing to fear at all, whether it matters of your health or finances, etc.
Yeah. So it's all about your thoughts. So you got to stop thinking about the worrisome thing, even if it's a justified worry, in order to not let the worry sink in. And so through this process of dot. Now I want to do an exercise. This is actually a really fun exercise, okay? I want you to close your eyes and try not to think of a white polar bear, okay? But the second you think of a white polar bear, I want you to clap your hands, okay? Ready, go. You guys weren't thinking about a white polar bear? No? No?
Mine's not doing that.
Okay, that's pretty good. Okay, wow. Kudos to you, Jeffrey, for winning. And David.
I was just thinking about a forest.
Wow. Okay, well, that was impressive. Okay, well, the whole point of the exercise was supposed to be that we run into a problem. To not think about something is very difficult, right? Because the second you're not thinking about it, you're thinking about it. So you're not thinking about a white polar bear. Just thought about it. So we have to figure out how to overcome that. So there's this famous novelist, essayist, journalist, and philosopher Fyodor Dostoevsky. Did I pronounce it right? Probably not. Yeah?
We'll call it
Close enough?
Yes.
Okay. Michael, why don't you read text 3?
Wait.
Yeah. Please.
I'm very literal. I
Yeah,
guess.
please.
You know, by casting your thought away,
Yeah.
you're not solving the problem that worry is giving you.
No, for sure. And I think sometimes a worry is very legitimate. Like, for example, I have to catch my flight, so I have to.
Hurry.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the whole thing is. I think this is the biggest difference and nuance you have to just really be able to distinguish. There's a big difference between actually having real concern. The difference between concern and worry. This is the way I would differentiate it. Concern is, look, I have to catch my flight. I have my doctor's appointment. I have to intellectually just spend 10, 15 minutes figuring out how I'm going to make that flight, how I'm going to check in, which taxi I'm going to call, how I'm going to get there, how I'm going to get to my doctor's appointment. Do I need to bring anything? I have to think about these things and actively be aware of that. Do I have to worry, meaning have my emotions get involved that are beyond the actual intellectual exercise of the actual doing the things I need to do?
Brain versus heart.
Yeah, exactly.
I think there's one point that you have to do both.
You have to worry?
Yeah,
Okay, why?
because the white polar bear is chasing you.
Oh, because the white polar bears. Yeah.
You finally thought of the white polar bear.
That's right.
I think you were.
That you need to find a solution to or do something about. You have to.
Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah. So let's hear let's hear this text 3. This is pretty good. Okay, text 3, Michael. Why don't you give it a shot?
Unwanted thoughts. Try to pose for yourself this task. Oh, that's the polar bear.
Yeah, I know. I did
you
the
did.
exercise before reading the text because I was afraid that you would catch it,
Yeah.
and then I wasn't worried. I was a little concerned.
Men don't worry.
No, we're just concerned.
It's the women who worry.
No, yeah, it's
Yeah.
the funny.
worry
Yeah,
about the
that's the
women.
thing is with emotions. Emotions are so powerful and have so much beauty to them, and that's what the beautiful thing. But you're right. Emotions can have positive elements and negative elements, and worry is the negative element where emotion comes in. Basically, yeah. Okay.
I can do the next one.
Okay, polar bear. You'll see that the cursed thing will come to mind every minute. Exactly. So that's the idea. Professor of psychology, so they actually did a test. This professor of psychology, he asked them to do this, verbalize their stream of consciousness for 5 minutes while trying not to think of a white bear. And basically, he said if a white bear came to mind, he told them to ring the bell. And so they actually did this test, and they found that the participants thought for a white bear more than once per minute on average, at least, while doing that exercise. So it just goes to show we have to figure out how do we not think about something. And so the answer is not to specifically not think about it. It's about to divert our minds towards something else. Like if I said, like, okay, now think about a kangaroo in Australia, jumping across like the field, then you'll not think about a white polar bear anymore, right?
You got to put something in the blank.
Yeah, you have to, exactly, because the mind is it's according to the Hasidic and Kabbalistic tradition. So we have the 10 pieces of our soul, of the sphirot, which is our actual soul makeup. And then our soul has garments, just like we wear clothes, garments. Our soul also has garments. And the 3 garments of our soul are thought, speech, and action, because we can change them. We can, like our thought, so we can change our actions, speech, and thought at any given time. The thing that makes the thought the most unique is that, first of all, it's the most internal of all of them, so it's most connected directly to our actual soul. I would maybe our undergarment. I don't know. Whatever. I don't know. Maybe connect. Maybe that'd be a good analogy. Maybe not. But it's most internal of all the garments, and then also it's the only one that's constantly active. It always has to be doing. It has to be thinking. You can't. Your thought you can't just not think about anything at all, because then even then you're thinking about nothing. That is what you're thinking about. So so as opposed to speech and action, which I can stop doing this specific action, or I can stop speaking, I can remain silent. Your thoughts are always constantly active. So the only way to overcome to not think about something is by choosing something else to think about.
This might happen when you wake up in the middle of the night,
Yeah.
right? And you try to go back to bed, and you're awake.
Yeah.
Sort of. So your brain starts getting, and that's why people count sheep and stuff.
Yeah.
But I believe it's the worry that woke you up.
It could be you had a
That, or
dream.
I know at our age, it's another reason.
And sometimes, you might be having a dream. Yeah, no, for sure. I'm waking up. Yeah, either that or it's my kid, that's, screaming.
In the middle of the night, you try to think about something else to get it off your mind. It's very
Yeah,
difficult.
no, for sure. Yeah, definitely. For me, actually, what I'll do is I'll put in my headphones and listen to, I'll listen to like a class on, some topic that's not too exciting enough to like listen, but not too exciting that it'll keep me up. Actually, I just saw this. There's a new podcast. I just saw this, that it's history for people that need to fall asleep. Literally the entire purpose of the podcast is exclusively for the purpose of helping people fall asleep, which I thought was just a hilarious.
It's so boring.
Yeah, because like really boring history, but like literally the whole purpose of the podcast, they're not like shying away from the fact like we are giving you this podcast, and so I think it's a very popular podcast because like people really struggle in this area, right? Okay. Michael, so we'll let you read another. We'll give you a break. We'll let you read text 4 on page. Yeah, exactly. It wasn't fair. Page 130, that was too short. We'll have you read text 4 on 131.
Directing the mind.
Mm-hmm.
The primary method of removing negative thoughts from your mind is by directing your mind toward other matters. This can be worldly things if they are necessary and make you happy, and God's Torah, which delights the heart, by establishing fixed times for daily study, particularly with the nose.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
And
Beautiful.
I just wanted to add a
Yeah.
thought that just reminded me of the changing the thought, which it just reminds me like what we try to do with little children sometimes, is we try to redirect.
Oh, for sure. My wife is an expert because she's a teacher. She teaches the preschool age kids, and like she knows that if they're throwing a tantrum, the best thing you can do is literally put them in a totally new environment and try to change the subject to something completely different and make them like totally forget about. Exactly. So this slide, focus on something engaging. That's really what it is, whether it be art or coming to this class. Maybe you worried about something before you came to this class, and now you're here, and you're enjoying this intellectual stimulation. You were able to grow in this way. So that is how to overcome worry. Now, the next section of this course is really about, we're overcoming worry from that perspective is to a certain extent a Band-Aid, because the ideal world, we don't want to have the worry to begin with, right? We want to be able to be in a place where that is not even, the worry doesn't even come up, or at least to minimize the extent of worry coming up, because you don't want to be constantly fighting this worry and constantly having to, shift. It's more of like a after the fact thing. But how do we tackle the core of the issue of worry? And this comes to trust. Trust. This is actually a good exercise. This is a good exercise. Okay, so what about this dollar bill brings happiness? Oh, I guess it'll be the backside of the dollar bill.
Isn't God we trust?
Ah, there you go. Okay, I kind of gave it away by the topic. Okay, it's not the value of the currency as much as the in God we trust part, and it's printed on every single dollar bill, and they say it's actually one of the reasons why the Lubavitch Rebbe was so into like one of the biggest things, his big like signature hallmark things that he would do is he would give out dollars on every Sunday. You give out specifically the $1 bill. And yeah, there might be some connection to that. Okay, so now we're going to read actually an excerpt from the most famous psalm in history, in all of history. So why don't, Jeffrey, why don't you read text 5, page 132.
Ironically, the first time I ever
You know
came
what?
across this was in Marine Corps boot camp.
This is actually not an excerpt of Psalm 23. This is the entire Psalm 23. It's just so famous. Everybody, literally within the Jewish world and the non-Jewish world, it's by far, I would say hands down, the most famous of all the Psalms. Okay, go for it.
God is my shepherd, Psalm 23.
Mm-hmm.
A song of David. God is my shepherd, I shall not want. He causes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness, bringing honor to his name. Even when I walk in the valley of darkness, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a feast for me in the presence of my adversaries. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. May only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life. I will dwell in the house of God for my entire life.
Yeah. So the first point that to take away from this is to recognize like the idea of God as a shepherd, just like a shepherd is so careful to make sure that all the sheep have all of their needs taken care of. It says that King David himself was a shepherd, and he would be so careful to make sure every single sheep got the nourishment that they needed, no matter what. He would make sure that the young sheep they would graze the field first because their teeth weren't so big. They can only eat the small little plants. Then he'd have the older sheep, and then he'd have the healthiest sheep come in, and which could eat the harder grass. So that to make sure literally every single sheep had what they needed. So too, God makes sure we have everything we need, so we can put our trust in it. So the main three things: God is inherently good, God has complete control over nature, and God loves his creations and takes interest in them. And that is, now you may or may not agree with this psalm or this worldview, but even if you disagree, hopefully at the very least you can appreciate the value that having this worldview can provide if you choose to adopt it. Page 134, text 6. Oh wait, we have the video. Yay. Okay, let's do the video first, because this video is great, and I wanted to make sure...
You got to plug your thing, right?
Yeah, I wanted to make sure it gets played before before David leaves, because this is a great video. And it would be just a shame if you missed it. Okay. Sorry about the static.
Can money buy happiness? Not necessarily. It often invites the opposite response. But can money point the way to happiness? If you live in the U.S., it probably can. Take a peek at the dollar bill. 4 short words tell it all. Interestingly, the psychological effects of trusting God have been probed significantly. Back in 2010, Dr. David Rosmarin, a professor of psychology and widely acclaimed researcher of cognitive behavioral therapy, conducted a fascinating study into the real-life effects of trust in God.
I created a program to help people build higher levels of trust in God.
He specifically chose to test the kind of trust known to traditional Jewish belief as bitachon. Dr. Rosmarin identified spiritual strategies for coping with stress and anxiety. He then designed a program to clinically measure their influence on our natural stress coping mechanism. The 2-week program included materials, meditations, and exercises that nurtured a strong trust in God. He then deployed the program in a study of 120 random participants with reported elevated but subclinical levels of stress and anxiety. Dr. Ross Marin hoped to measure his program against a standard technique. So one group of participants was treated with progressive muscle relaxation, a typical method of stress relief that monitors and controls muscular tension. A second group of participants was provided with Dr. Ross Marin's daily Trust in God program, while a final group was offered no treatment at all. The participants were assessed before and after the program, and then again at a 6 to 8 week follow-up. The results of his study were astonishing. The muscle relaxation technique failed to produce clinically significant results when compared to the results of those who received no treatment at all, but the partakers of the Trust in God treatment scored clinically measurable improvements that were highly significant.
In statistical terms, it was a 2 standard deviation decrease in anxiety and worry over only a 2-week period, which is very, very significant.
And these gains lasted well after the program ended, demonstrating a long-lasting effect. The study indicated that the Trust in God method can be an effective practice for well-being for the global population. So instead of forking out top dollar, many of us could glance at the top of the dollar and remind ourselves that God is on top of things. When we recall where the buck truly stops, we can cash in on the benefits of cultivating confidence in our Creator, whose wealth of caring providence to each individual provides us with the capital for investing in our own state of happiness and calm.
It really provided clear evidence that working on one's faith can reduce levels of anxiety and depression and make things better. Experimental, clinical evidence.
Okay, I'll explain. Before we continue, this is the first time we have actually had the entire class present, and since David, you have to leave, I would love to do a pic. If it's okay with you guys, I'd love to take one class picture. I know we could all stay on the spot, but if you guys are okay with it, we can do just a quick selfie of everyone. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, that'd be really nice. Maybe let's see if we can get everyone in. Is everyone in? Oh no, almost. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, smile. Say happy. Okay. Okay, good. Because I know, David, you have to leave soon, so I don't want to. Okay, yeah. So I'm going just to be a little critical of that study because I think it's also fair to be intellectually honest. It was a very limited study, very limited. So I think the study should be taken with a certain grain of salt and a certain perspective. It's not a end all be all. Oh my gosh, his conclusions are fully definitive and everything. It's not like it was. I think he only tested about 150 people, but it's still interesting. I think that's what I would say. I think it's interesting. What do you guys think?
What was his photo?
So I can explain. It's actually he basically took a population of Jewish population of varying observance levels, not necessarily Orthodox, Reform, Conservative, unaffiliated, secular, religious, everyone, but the only thing they all had in common is they had some anxiety, but not a clinical level where it was diagnosable level. There's some level of moderate level of anxiety and worry. And then basically he split them into 3 groups. One group was the test group that they did nothing. And basically he just told that group, hey, you're on the waiting list and we're going to call you when we need you. The second group he had doing a more traditional way of relaxing worry, a muscle relaxation thing. And then the third group, he kind of made his own, he called it an SIT, spiritually integrated therapy. He created this spiritually integrated therapy, which the author of the course, actually, I just listened to him giving this lecture. He said he actually took this therapy. He actually did it. It was a series of CDs that he would play. It would start off with a video of a story, classic story to bring out the theme of trusting God, and then reading some passages from the Torah that relate to this topic, and then followed by a prayer, and then followed by some other reflections. Actually, a couple of them are in the next couple exercises. So David, when you go, you're not left in the dark. Those exercises 4.2 A, B, and C, D are actually part of the exercise you did. Yeah. So no, you're good. No, I'm so happy. The main thing is you came. We got the picture. We got the video. So and everything's recorded. This whole class is recorded. So we'll send you. Yeah, happy Thanksgiving for sure.
Nice, Holly. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, thank you. We'll send you the recording at the end. Yeah, don't. As long as you're not worried.
I will cast the worry off.
If you're not worried, we won't be worried.
You could be concerned, but not worried.
So on page 135, actually, we have a sampling of the exercises he had the third group do, which was his spiritually integrated therapy that he created. So it was exercises like, think of someone you trust. Think of what makes them trustworthy in your eyes. Think of them as God's messenger, being sent to help you in your life. Think of their presence in your life as a gift from God, and try to feel that God loves you. That's one of them. Think of someone that you value very dearly in your life. Your hands, your sense of sight, a family member. Think of it as a gift from God. Try to feel like God gave it to you as an act of great love and care. Muster up your appreciation and thank God verbally. I'll just read the last two just for consistency's sake. Think of a stressful time when things turned out better than you expected. Think of how you felt before the situation was resolved. Think about God's involvement in the situation. What may have occurred at a random force, and had a random force been in control instead. Think of the outcome as a gift from God and try to feel God's love for you. And the last one, try to feel trust in God the next time you do a basic life activity. For example, get food from the fridge, turn on or off a light switch, and stand up from your chair. So the goal of these exercises is to not take life for granted, and also to be able to learn how to develop a sense of trust in God. That way, when things do come up that have the potential to cause worry, it won't cause worry from the outset because you're connected. My famous Hasidic story that kind of brings up the point to a certain extent. There's this Hasidic Rebbe that every day he would walk. It was very icy in the winter, cold winter, and there was the pathway from the synagogue to the mikveh, where they purified themselves. They went to dip in the ritualarium, I guess would be the English word, but nobody uses that word. Ritualarium, and it was very slippery and icy because it was down this hill, and it's literally icy. So everyone that would go, they'd always slip and fall and trip, and But every time the super holy tzaddik, he would go walk down, and he would always make it back to and from without falling, and everyone was so impressed because he's an older guy, and even these younger guys are falling. So it's how do you do this without falling? He says when you're connected up above, you don't fall below. That's what he said, and so obviously he was using that example in the physical sense, but in the sense of worrying and having just that greater trust that you can go through life without letting all these small things get to you and drive you. So, yeah. You have any thoughts? Anyone thoughts on that? I mean, it's so don't take life. This is a great quote. Don't take life for granted. Take it as granted. Meaning, you take everything that happens in life as something that God is granting you to be able to make the most of it. So, and that when you have that perspective, then it can really change the whole perspective on life. But it's not I mean, there's nothing worse than going through every moment in life and everything bothering you, everything driving you. It's I have this ache, I have this pain, this isn't working, everything's wrong, everything, and then you just become a miserable person. It's not, and then that's not good for your happiness. That's not good for anyone, really. So really the ultimate is to help work on developing what's in Hebrew is called bitachon. Bitachon. Bitachon.
What does that mean?
Bitachon means trust. So there's so the whole question is, well, what's the difference between faith and trust, right? There's actually someone, I'm in a WhatsApp group with all the other Chabad rabbis that are across the country, also the world, that are teaching this course right now. And one posted this video. Apparently there was this famous guy who did, he was a tightrope walker. I think it was a few centuries ago. And I forgot it was his name. If I looked it up, I'd remember. But so basically it was like a canyon, like that. Literally, like if you fell, you'd literally die. That he extended a tightrope and he would go across, and people were so amazed. Like this, he was like the most professional tightrope walker. Everyone was so amazed. Wow, he's like literally can do it, And he even had a wheelbarrow. He would even he was that good. He took first he started with the pole, walked across with the pole, and then he walked across with the wheelbarrow, and with a bunch of coals or stuff inside. It's wow, that's really impressive, And then so they're like, oh, so you believe I can walk across, fine without falling, no matter what? And I was like, yeah, we believe you. And then so he asked oh, so does anybody want to go in the wheelbarrow? And so everyone's silent, and he got so popular that the Duke himself was actually attending this, watching him do it. And he asked the Duke himself, do you believe, at first he said yeah, but then he said oh, do you want to go in the wheelbarrow? And then it was shocked silence. And he's like, sorry, I'm not interested. So he's like, does anybody want? And of course no one, but then of course one hand raised her hand, and the person who raised her hand was this person's mother. And so she was the only one that had enough trust, that really trusted him, that he was actually able to do it and put her life in his hands, And it kind of really illustrates the difference between belief and trust. Trust is a much higher level. You really, it's embedded in your kishkas, in your, So, why don't we read text? Did we read text 6 on page 134? I don't think we did. We're going to. We did not, or we did?
We did not.
We did not. Okay, so whose turn was it?
Oh.
Okay, that's easy.
Trust brings tranquility. The benefits of trusting God include tranquility of the heart in the face of worldly worries.
Mm-hmm.
The one who has trust finds quiet, security, and serenity within this world. As it is written, blessed are those who trust in God. God will be their reassurance.
Yeah.
Jeremiah 17:7.
Okay, I'm really glad we did not skip this quote, because this is actually from a work called Chovot Halvavot, Duties of the Heart, Shar Bitachon, the chapter called the section on trust. And it's so very, very popular, and it's a very recommended read if you want to do any additional reading on your own. It's called Shar HaBitachon, or Gate of Trust, or Pathway of Trust. And a lot of people would write into the Lubavitch Rebbe about different concerns, about worries and this and that. And a lot of times, time and time again, not every time, but a lot of times, he would actually respond suggesting that people read this book, because this work helps really crystallize the Jewish Torah perspective on trust in God. And when you internalize that, it helps definitely really develop a real sense of trust and real sense of trust in God. Okay. I don't think we need to read text 7 because... you know what? Let's read text 7. Text 7 is kind of summarizing the results of the study that he did from the video. So, Michael, why don't you read text 7, page 136.
Spiritually integrated treatment.
Mm-hmm.
Participants in the SIT Spiritually Integrated Treatment Group reported significant reductions in stress, worry, depression, and intolerance to uncertainty. Symptom improvement was clinically significant. At pre-treatment, participants in the SIT group reported near clinical levels of stress and worry, and at post-treatment and 6 to 8 week follow-up, reported levels were in the normal range. The SIT group reported greater treatment gains compared to WLC waitlist condition participants. Surprisingly, PMR, progressive muscle relaxation, and WLC waitlist condition participants did not differ on most outcomes. It is also interesting that Orthodox affiliation was not a predictor of treatment outcomes in the SIT group. SIT is likely not appropriate for all Jewish individuals. Nevertheless, this surprising finding suggests that interest in SITs among Jews extends beyond the Orthodox community.
Interesting. Yeah, so this is it's very interesting. Yeah, so bitachon is the new word of the day. If you want a word of the day,
Yes.
bitachon, trust. That's really, if we want to summarize this lesson in one word, it'll be like worry. To overcome worry, the best way to do it, in addition to the techniques that we spoke about at the beginning of the class, is bitachon, trust. Because bitachon reduces stress, worries, intolerance to uncertainty. So yeah, and that's basically, to summarize this idea, is really what King David wrote about, so many years ago, in Psalm 23. That this having if you actually look at the Psalm 23 more in depth, it's, specifically, even when I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, right? That's a gate salmavis, right? The valley of the shadow of death. I will lo ira ra ki atai imadi. I will not fear evil because you are with me. That's the verse from the Psalm, and it's like it's a really beautiful concept because he's not ignoring the fact that people have struggles and people go through really dark times throughout their lives. We can all have extremely rough struggles, even, bad valleys. The valleys spiritually represent like negative situation, and shadow of death, obviously that's a very negative situation. I think in our book they translated as valley of uncertainty. That's even when I walk in the valley of darkness. Okay, exactly. So there's times in our life where there's darkness, but when you living on this higher level of a trust like King David had, that the fear and the worry is not gonna affect you because you have this sense of trust. So yeah. So there's a couple of recommended readings that I can link after the class that if anyone wants to either buy the book, read it online, or anything in between, they can. Okay. You are with me. So that's the idea. Okay. Text 8a. Oh, how are we doing on time? Ooh, we're over time. Okay, so we're over time, but if we want, we can go a little bit, really just try to get through the last text 8. I think that's pretty much text 8, text 9. Yeah, let's try to get through text 8 and 9 if we can. And if anyone has to leave, I will not be offended. You just, go. But page 137, Michael, you want to read quickly text 8? You got an easy one.
137.
Oh wait, no, Michael, you just read the last one.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Jerry,
What page?
137.
137. Jeffrey, why don't you read text 8a?
excuse me, divine steps, Psalms 37:23.
Yeah.
God establishes the steps of a man.
Yeah, so this is another verse from a different psalm. Me'ashem mitzadei gever kainanu. Very famous. Very famous. So, if you want to, you could do a run through it. I'll just go through the slide. God establishes the steps of man. Why did God bring me here? Our travels are not random. Oop. Okay. So yeah, why don't you read the text 8b? Yeah.
You should clearly recognize that our travels to different places are not random, God forbid, but specifically directed by God's intention, as a particular person has a specific portion to rectify in a particular place, whether through Torah study and prayer, or through eating, drinking, and sleeping for the sake of heaven, or through another means of serving God.
Mm-hmm.
The Baal Shem Tov of righteous memory explained the verse, God establishes the steps of a man, to mean that God imparts the desire to a person to travel to a specific place with God's intention, being that the person should engage there in particular divine service, thereby rectifying what this person must rectify.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, when we come to a particular place, we must take this to heart and ask ourselves, why am I here? For what purpose did God bring me here? It is certainly not for naught.
Yeah, and I think this part really kind of relates to last week's lesson to a large extent, in my humble opinion, because, quoted that, like, how do we figure out what our life's purpose is? And sometimes that can also connect with our worries and everything. And a lot of times it's to recognize that God directs the steps of man, in the sense that wherever by divine providence we happen to be, whatever place, either physical place, situation in life we happen to be in, that's a sign from God that, no, this is where we are meant to be. And that means that God wants us to, this is where he wants us to be, and wants us to do something about it and to make some effective change in our surroundings, or to make the situation better. So,
You know,
have you any thoughts on that?
Yeah, when I read this, the
Yeah.
first thing that came to my mind
Mm-hmm.
was, for a very long time I believed in predetermination,
Mm-hmm.
and that, no matter what I think I can control, everything that I say and do is predetermined by God, whether it's good, whether it's bad, whatever thoughts or actions I may have, God knows I'm going to have them before I actually have them. That's my personal belief. A lot of people think I'm Looney Tunes when I say
No,
that.
I mean,
But I believe that no matter what I think, say, or do, God knows about it beforehand. That's just my personal belief.
I was gonna
yeah,
ask,
please add.
what about step 11? Isn't that praying daily for the knowledge of God's will for us and the power to carry it out?
Mm-hmm.
That's step 11 of the 12th step.
Yeah. So, so you're saying that how do we reconcile destiny with, meaning the idea that, everything is divine providence, everything is controlled by God, but at the same time we have free choice, kind of that idea, and then we have, is that kind of what you're getting at? Like,
No,
yeah.
I'm saying that step 11 sounds like what you just read.
Oh.
In the text.
Oh.
Text here.
Good point you're making.
About when you come to a particular place and say, why am I here? It's kind of like taking an inventory of, what is God's will for me today, and and how do I have the power to carry that out?
Yeah.
So that's what
Yeah, for me personally, I'll tell you, like, one of the things that affected me most as a, one of the biggest teachings that really affected me the most is that, like, whatever your challenges you're going through are specifically, God is putting you through those challenges intentionally. And if God is putting you through those challenges, that means he also gave you the power to overcome them. So, and he would never give you a challenge that you couldn't overcome, because we know, like, the three things that we know are based on the Torah and Jewish belief, and is we know that God is ultimately good. That is like that is step one. That is the basis of the whole Jewish religion, is that God is fundamentally good. So he would never do something, just to inherently punish you, because, or just to for no reason. So if you're going through any challenge, it's only because God knows that you are meant to go through this. God wants you to go through this and to discover something within yourself or to overcome something, and He also gave you the power to overcome it.
Can you, is there a place in the Old Testament or in the Torah that actually says that, in your opinion? Because I haven't found it.
Okay, well, we'll talk later. I can discuss with my colleagues and figure out the best source to bring up. But yeah, no, you're right. Good point. I need to look and think about exactly what source to bring up.
I'm sure you have.
No, it's okay. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, please.
What about like people who get terrible diseases like Parkinson's or other?
Yeah, my father-in-law has Parkinson's. Actually, it's really rough.
So why? That's not a challenge that you
Overcome per se. I'll give you an example. There's this rabbi. He was in Temecula, California, actually where I was for a brief amount of time. He got diagnosed with ALS, which is terrible.
Yeah.
Literally totally debilitating. And now he's, for the past, 5 years, almost 10 years, 8, 9 years, he's literally been in a almost a full coma state. Like not a coma, but like not able to move at all. On a like breathing machine, or the whole time. The only way he's able to communicate is he has this machine with his eyes that he looks at the screen, and basically it tracks the motion of his eyes. So when he looks at a letter, it can like type that letter. So he can like actually like write a message by looking like this, that, and then like kind of like creates it. And it's you could think like, well, what is his? How does he over like? Can you imagine being in such a situation? And, obviously he could have chosen to pull the plug a long time ago, but he has chosen to persevere and to choose life. And he, before this happened to him, he was a relatively not necessarily the most influential, just local Chabad rabbi doing his thing, right? But since then, he started like a blog where every week he would write his thoughts on the weekly Torah portion with his eyes. And it gained such a tremendous following and such an influence he was able to have on so many people all over the world because wow, look at this rabbi, so he's inspiring so many people to persevere. So yes, is he going to be able to, or no, is he necessarily going to be able to overcome that specific disease? Maybe not. But is he able to utilize the situation that he's in for the best and to do whatever, at least the way he perceives as serving God in that moment? Yeah, also yes. He can, and surprisingly, maybe he's having more of an impact on the world in this state than he was even before, because of the people he's inspiring. He inspired all these amazing campaigns. Like every year on his birthday, like all of the students at the local school, like they have a whole big campaign, for him to like do all these good deeds, in his merit, all these like really beautiful things. So,
but what about someone who's suffering?
I'm getting emotional to think about.
Inspiring anyone, they're just suffering.
Why do bad things happen to good people?
No, suffering. So suffering is suffering. So we gotta figure out what's the question. What's the question?
Well, the question is why would God give them a challenge like that? Because they're not really going to be overcoming it if they have something like a debilitating.
I don't know if the overcoming is not necessarily like not having the suffering anymore. Like I don't know. I think the story of Job is what brings to mind. Like the story of Job in the Bible. It's like he just constant suffering. I think the whole thing is to overcome it internally means to being able to still make the most of your life circumstances, to still bring the most good to the world and help the most people and be a light, to your surroundings, despite the struggle, despite the challenges, and despite the pain and the suffering. You know,
The purpose of that suffering may be to inspire or enlighten someone else. You know, maybe someone's affected. I've heard of people that became doctors because relatives had a certain disease or ailment, and it inspired them to, you know, become an eye doctor or a heart doctor, whatever it may be. So sometimes I think our purpose is not always what we think it is.
Yeah.
Maybe the reason God puts us through the challenges we go through are not necessarily for us, but for the others that we interact with.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, like sometimes you hear stories of people, they start entire foundations in the memory of, you know, someone
My brother did
that
that.
passed away from some
Mhm.
debilitating illness, and they, to see, you know, to help inspire, like, through them.
Against drunk driving.
Yeah, there you go.
My brother did that.
And then even after all that's said and done, if you want to know just from the Jewish Torah perspective, there is a concept that, like, that after we pass away in the next world, there is a process. It's not like the way in the Christian world of basically Gehenom is like a spiritual refinement process that is painful for the soul because of all the negative things that happened, they went through and did throughout their life, that their soul needs to be purified. It's called kapara, and the whole idea is that, like, theoretically, you know, someone can atone for a lot of that, you know, and accomplish a lot of that cleansing process even during this lifetime. If they have, like, any suffering that they had during this lifetime, it can actually atone for them, for their soul, a lot, in a way that, you know, could be much easier than if they had waited until after they passed away. So, you know,
There's a saying that this reminds me of, and that's, if God brings you to it, he'll bring you through it.
Oh, that's a great one-liner. These one-liners are great.
Yeah, I had a bookmark like that.
I'm a wealth of useless information.
No, are you kidding?
No,
No, God forbid. It's the opposite of useless. It's very useful. Okay, anyways. Oh, the snowed in.
I want to find out why.
Okay, fine. Snowed in for a reason. Let's read snowed in for a reason, and then we'll call it a day. Okay, Diane, I think, right?
The Baal Shem Tov's teaching that every occurrence contains a directive in serving God
Oh.
is a topic that has been spoken of and discussed at length many, many times. I am sure that you two have given speeches on this topic.
Sorry, I have to cut you off. I
Okay.
did not give you the context for this letter. So this is a letter that written by the Lubavitcher Rebbe. That basically there was these women that were on a conference. They're from New York, but they're having this conference in Detroit. And when they're at the conference, there's a humongous snowstorm in New York, causing literally one of the biggest snowstorms, like once in a decade snowstorm kind of thing. That all the flights were canceled, and there's no way for them. And they were writing to the Rebbe saying, "Hey, we're stuck. We need help. We don't know how to get out of this predicament. Please help us. We're stuck." And this is his response to this letter. That they wrote. And this letter that they wrote, not only did he respond to the letter, but later on he actually ended up reviewing the letter again, editing it, and it actually got published in a book later on. So it's a very famous letter because it touches the crux of this topic of trust in God. I mean, they're not showing enough trust in God. Okay, let's keep going.
I'll start again.
Yeah.
The Baal Shem Tov's teaching that every occurrence contains a directive in serving God is a topic that has been spoken of and discussed at length many, many times. I am sure that you two have given speeches on this topic. Yet now when an incident has happened to you, for example, you're being delayed in Detroit by the New York snowstorm, whose occurrences has a clear meaning and purpose, you seek to attach to the incident most distorted interpretations. Example, perhaps a delay is designed to distress us, God forbid, or how are we going to return home, etc. Anything but simple and obvious interpretation. The simple and obvious reason for the delay it is possible to disseminate Torah and mitzvah to a far greater degree than was accomplished during the convention. You are therefore being granted the merit through the snow which descends from heaven of completing the above task with an extraordinary abundance and storm intensity of Judaism, similar to the extraordinary abundance of the snowstorm. Your efforts in completing the convention's task of disseminating Torah and mitzvah should be extended to the city, the airport, publicity, the newspapers, etc.
Yeah. I could have even provided more context. There's actually an entire video. Maybe after I'll send you the video that really tells the whole story firsthand from the people that were there. But basically, as you all know, if your flight gets delayed, basically they were trying to fly back to New York, back to the hometown to ask for this convention. Flight's delayed. They're just sitting at the airport, just kind of getting them all worried and stressed out. He's saying, well, what are you doing? The whole purpose of your convention was how to teach Judaism and Torah to people, how to teach people how to worry less and be more fulfilled in their purpose and their everything. It's like, and now when it's happening to you, you're not internalizing it. He's like almost criticizing them, saying, no, you should recognize that a snowstorm. It's funny for us. I guess in Payson we have snow, but the snowstorm, right? You should take the lesson of a snowstorm to storm the world and be. Go out there with a storm, so to speak, and really help influence your surroundings, and make, maybe you could write up a whole story about this whole thing, about how recognizing the power of trust, and you can help teach all these people and inspire these people through this predicament that you went through. And you can put it in the papers. That's what he's suggesting, even have published it in the newspaper. So turn something that seemingly was a negative life event to turn it into something positive that can inspire others, right? And it's easier said than done, because when you're in the moment, it's so hard, right? It's I just want to get home. I want to just relax. No, but to recognize, no, this is why this snowstorm is happening for a reason, and I have to figure out what that is. There's a very famous video. I remember.
But different reasons for different people.
Yeah, exactly. There's a very famous.
You have a whole city stuck in a snowstorm, so it's.
Yeah, everyone has their own thing to figure out what their purpose is in the. Yeah, there's this great story in Iowa. In Iowa, there was a big snowstorm, and there's traffic on the highway backed bumper to bumper to bumper for hours, and there was the helicopter was covering the news, was covering the story. And they said, this is a terrible situation. And oh, look down there. And so what happened was there was a bunch of yeshiva bachrim, these Jewish students, that decided to take advantage. They said they were stuck in traffic. What are we going to do about the situation? They decided to get out of the car, blast some music on their car, and just start dancing. So they just started dancing in a circle around the car. The helicopter's covering the star. They're oh my gosh, there's all these people that are dancing. So imagine how much joy they brought to all these people. Then just started dancing, because that's their default. They're hey, we gotta be happy, So, anyways, so that's everything in a nutshell. You can do exercise 4.3 on your own if you'd like. Next week, journey of yourself. Key points. We're not hostage to our emotions. We have to deal with how to overcome emotion of the negative emotion, the worry, some thoughts, to talk it over with a friend, to stop thinking about it, but by doing that, specifically thinking about something else. And then the idea of trusting God, and specifically focusing on these concepts can help us worry less and help us
a movie,
be a happier person.
Day. Did
Yeah.
you ever see
Oh,
Groundhog Day?
yeah.
And so he uses that to get a connection. He uses the extra time to get that connection built with that woman.
Exactly.
And then she actually does marry him.
Remember that,
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so that's that.
It keeps repeating.
Nothing's random. Nothing's random.
But I have to go.
Yeah.
I can't sit in the chair too more.
Oh, no, for sure. Yeah. No, an hour and a half. I know, that's why, for me, since I was driving an hour and a half here and then another hour and a half back, for me, Actually, you guys doing a big favor by letting me stand.
Are we?
Yeah,
Do
if we're in
Are you
those chairs,
kidding?
I might be able to sit
Me, I
longer.
have back issues when I sit a long time too. Is it
Oh,
okay if I stand
no,
up?
not at all.
Stand up.
No, for sure.
Still listening. It's just
No, I'm the same way. For me, over an
It's
hour.
very hard,
Once it
yeah.
gets over an hour, it's very hard.
Yeah, me
Yeah.
too.
What we could even do is because if we would specifically want to have the whole thing like an hour and a half be the time period, we could have like 45 minutes and then like have like a couple minute break, like a stretch
Try.
break,
That would be good.
like
Yeah.
I think I
grab a
could do
drink,
that, yeah.
stretch your legs. That'd be nice, like a natural break in the middle,
Yeah.
and then people
That'd be
can
easier.
discuss it. We can, yeah.
Because I'm like you, it makes my back hurt. when I
Oh,
sit too
and I
long.
forgot my cane today, so.
Oh.
And I was telling Rabbi, I said, I could walk without my cane. But if I walk around the first half of the day without it, by the end of the day, I can barely stand up.
Yeah, I